Hi guys, and welcome to another IBM IoT technical tutorial. In this tutorial, what we're going to do is we're going to create an IoT Foundation service description. That will allow us to send events from over the internet into IBM's IoT cloud in order for events to be recorded and for applications to work on them. Now, this will be a building tutorial that we will use in future exercises, but this is pretty much foundation stuff. In order to do almost anything with IBM IoT, we need to create one of these IoT services. So here I am. I'm logged into my Bluemix environment. I've got a organization over here with a space, and I'm going to bring up my Bluemix catalog. So by clicking here, it's opening up the list of different services that I can create in Bluemix, and down here we've got the Internet of Things. I select the Internet of Things category, and here is my Internet of Things Foundation. Click on this, and now I am creating an instance of an IoT Foundation service. So I'm going to call this my IoT Foundation. I'm going to call it something, so I'll call it my IoT Foundation. Hit the create button. Now what that's doing is that's causing Bluemix to create the definitions of my IoT Foundation service. Once created, it brings up a dashboard into which we can start defining the customizations and capabilities of my specific Internet of Things service. So we launch the dashboard, and one of the first things we're going to have to do is create ourselves a device. Now, a device is the endpoint of events from the internet. We can create individual devices for each of our perhaps millions and millions of unique devices, or we can create a device which just is a representation of all our devices. So we go ahead and click Add a Device, and the first thing it's asking us to do is choose the type of device that we're going to add. Now at this point we don't have any. We just created this Internet of Things Foundation service, so we don't have any device types to choose from. Fortunately, on this button we can go ahead and create a new device type right here. So I say create a new device type, and we've got a couple of types of device type. So again, create a device type, give it a name. I'm going to call it unimaginatively my device type. So I'm creating a new type called my device type. Give it a description, my device type, and then hit the next button to go on to the next page. Now we can specify metadata for my device here, but excuse me, as none I want to add, so we'll just go ahead and create the device definitions, and at the end of this we now have a device type defined. Now I want to create an instance of that device type. I hit the next button, and it's asking us for the ID that we want to give to this device. So again, unimaginatively, I'm going to call it my device ID and hit the next button. Again, we can give metadata specific to this instance of the device. Hit the next button. We're now about to provide tokens, and finally we get to hit the add button, and our device has been defined. Now let's pause here. So what we've done in this part of the tutorial was we created a device type. That's a logical description for the kind of device you're going to represent. Then we created an instance of the device, which I called my device ID, and that was of the type my device. Now, having created that instance of the device, we had generated for us a token. Think of it like a password, if you like. Now, that token uniquely represents this device. So if this device were to send data over the internet, it would have to supply this token in order to be correctly recognized as the correct device. This prevents other devices from masquerading as this particular device. Only this device should be able to know its own authentication token. So it's very important that we record this information, because once you move away from this screen, the authentication token is non-recoverable. You can't get it back. You would need to delete your device and then recreate it, which would then recreate a new token. So let's copy this into the clipboard, and I'm going to paste this in a notepad here so I can remember it later. Okay, so we've created our device type, we've created our device instance, and we've got the token associated with it. So now, in principle, we can start sending in events from this device to the IBM IoT cloud, and we should see these events start to appear against this device. So how do we send in events? Well, we're going to use MQTT. MQTT is, of course, the internet-based protocol for lightweight publish and subscribe for sending in events. IBM's IoT technology listens on MQTT for incoming events. Now, I've prepared here a simple shell script which uses the Mosquito Pub client, which publishes messages to this host name, this port, this data, etc., etc. So in the video description, we'll have this shell script which you can copy. But now we want to copy in the data that we had saved previously. We're going to copy that into our shell script. So for right now, I'm just going to paste it in here. We'll delete it in a second. But my organization ID, that was generated for me. My device type, well, we entered what that was. My device ID, same thing, device ID. And the generated token for us is all of this data here, which we place in there. So now delete that data again, and if we look at the shell script, these variables will be replaced in the parameters to Mosquito Pub, giving us the endpoint where we're going to send the MQTT message, the password, which is the device authentication token, the identifier for this client, the topic, etc., etc. And our payload here is going to be this simple piece of JSON text. So if I save this, and let's take this browser out of full screen, bring up a shell prompt. I have here my script, so run the do publication script. And if we now go and look in our, let's run it again, run the do publication script. When we look at my instance of the device, every time I run the publication script, we see a new message arrived at the IBM IoT. If we click on one of these events, we see here's the payload. If I go and modify my payload, add hello says Neil, save that, publish a new event, go have a look at the latest timestamp event, and we should see here is the data that has arrived. So in summary, what have we done? We, from our Bluemix dashboard, we created a new IoT Foundation service. In the IoT Foundation service, we opened up its details, and we created a new device type in the dashboard of the IoT Foundation. And once we created the device type, we created an instance of that device, and that gave us all the parameters that we needed in order to mechanically send in events against that device. And now when we publish those events, they are received and available for processing on IBM's cloud, on IBM's Internet of Things Foundation. Now, there'll be more technical tutorials building on this topic, but this was a fundamental concept on creating an IoT Foundation service definition, device type, device ID, and sending in simple messages. Building on this, we're going to be writing applications which both process those events when they arrive on the cloud and provide other ways in which to publish the events from your own particular devices. Again, thanks for listening, and I hope you found some value. Bye for now.